Yes, it's raining. Yes, I'm in the bed of a truck. But the view is good. So, in the words of someone who's famous online, there is no light without dark. There is no joy without pain. You can't have a rainbow without a little rain. It would be kind of cool if there was a rainbow after this. That would be pretty cool. I know I haven't spoken a lot about masculinity and men much, and that is something I've been meaning to get to for months now because I had a very divine interaction. I mean, it wasn't exactly like I met an angel, but God told me to go meet someone and that he'd be sitting outside of Best Buy. I think I told you guys this. I went to go buy a hard drive to back up most of these videos that I make so that I have copies and that way they're not sitting on my phone or my laptop. And he God told me that there was supposed to be someone that was sitting right outside of Best Buy smoking a cigarette, and I was supposed to sit with him and talk to him. And he was the one guy that told me that I should start also speaking about men and masculinity and the problems that occur. And just for background context, I think is because I've started to tell strangers, the people that I work with, the staff, that I've been raised by my parents because that's one of the biggest questions they ask me. And apparently it's a big thing that people ask each other and talk about with each other. They started asking me like, what was it like growing up, the fact that your father raised you? My father was very tough on me and I don't blame him. I actually thank him for it every day, even in the smallest ways. He he respected the fact that I was creative, that I was artistic, and he used that to make me practical as well. So it's not that everything's up here, it's that everything can come tangibly through these hands, and learning how to coordinate my mind with what I want to have done. And that's what helped me publish books. It's what helped me write them, edit them, make sure that they were all done. I have one book left to go next month. Let's go, guys. By that time, see, the thing is, I set an ultimatum a year ago that by July of 2025, I would have published all 4 devotionals and all 9 poetry books. Here we are. The poetry books are published. I know it's a busy road, but what can we do? The essence of what my dad raised me for is to be someone that never backs down, someone that's persistent, someone that's disciplined, someone that is determined and dedicated. And he always admired that, especially from a biblical point of view. David was dedicated, the prophets were dedicated to their relationship with God, to what God said they would do, and what God said he wanted them to do. And it's hard being a man. Yesterday, I happened to just be in a room with 2 girls talking about the men in their life. And one of them was talking about her ex boyfriends and how she treated guys even more harshly when they would act up emotionally. And it's because men are more emotional than girls. Girls just don't realize that. They think they're the emotional ones. But the truth is that guys are more emotional, guys are more romantic. The other one said that she was trying to vomit and she ended up being kind of rude to the guy because she said, "Get off of me" or "Get away from me." And he stayed up all night. See, if you're doing that type of stuff, I agree with the girl. It's kind of simpy, it's kind of lame. I would much rather prefer that you just hold your ground, treat it as whatever. Don't let girls treat you like shit. Don't don't allow yourself to be emotionally manipulated by girls. Don't fall for that type of stuff either, because you have to respect yourself. And I'm going to try and bring everything together, analyzing social interaction, self accountability, self respect, and self trust. And I'm also going to add a small topic about social leprosy, because I think I had mentioned it, but I want to expound on that. And I mentioned something about one of my friends being very negative. Girls don't like negativity. I don't like negativity. I'm not a girl. Guys don't like negativity. Nobody likes negativity. Why would I go out of my way to take on your negativity? Yes, it's the Christian call. But if you only want to be negative for the sake of negativity and having that being reflected back, and you don't want positivity, that's a problem. Like I said, one of the guys that I know, he's socially awkward and his best excuse is I don't know. Well, learn how to not be socially awkward. It's not a hard thing to learn, because someday you're going to have to confront that social awkwardness, because it's a matter of life and death, or your partner, which I've heard is kind of a big thing too. You know, choosing the right partner means 90% of your happiness or depression. And coming back to the fact that it's about men, people think it's, I love sparring. I hate playing basketball, softball with the other stuff. It's not much of my thing. I love sparring. I found a guy that wants to spar. We try to spar 3 or 4 times a week. And when I told him that I want to have kids that learn how to spar early on, as soon as they're physically active, they're like 6, 7 years old, I want them to start sparring or at least do pad work with a trainer. And he said, people are going to call that toxically masculine. I said, yeah, probably. What does it matter? It's my sons. I want them to be raised right. The reason I spar is so that I can be self accountable. The reason I do this is so I can be self accountable and learn to trust myself. So I can trust myself to avoid confrontation and then deal with it if the other person does want to have a confrontation. The reason I do this is so that I can speak better and learn how to communicate and be a more articulate, and even just keep my mind active and learn how to speak properly and network with people and get better at sales, get better at marketing. And not even that, is just to be more perspicuous, which means more clarity in how I speak. Being able to speak in such a way that is clear, that communicates clearly, and that I don't fumble over my own words. I try to cut out the ums and ahs and likes as much as possible. That's why I go back and rewatch all of my content so that I can realize where I messed up. I'd love to do that for the sparring, but I'm probably going to have to buy another phone for that or two. And all of this comes back down to a very simple thing. That is the masculine essence, to just be better. And you know, I'll be forward with you. I've had a few relationships go south and they ended. And I never asked what the girl did wrong. I never asked myself what the girl did wrong. I don't care what she did wrong. The biggest way I explain self accountability is if two people have a confrontation and they each blame each other, like that person needs to fix that about themselves, this person needs to fix this about themselves. What happens is both of them have the expectation that that person needs to fix themselves, which is good, but you both walk away not fixing anything about yourselves. So if you say, okay, maybe he's right, or maybe I should look at that angle, or maybe I should just analyze the situation without his bias and my bias and just realize where I went wrong and I fix it, at least you walk away a better person. I talk about betterment. Leave things, leave places, leave people better than the way you found them. And this is just one of the best ways to do it, self accountability. You know, it's not even the fact that someone was wrong or right. At least you become better. Isn't that the whole point of human life, is to develop and grow and become a better person? Continue to refine the best version of you. At some point in time, you start at zero and then you get better and then you become the best. But the best is not enough. You can continuously refine the best, especially like tools. Like if you use an axe for long enough, it's going to get dull someday. If you use a knife for long enough, it's going to get dull. If you use a gun, someday it's just going to get jammed up. Everything needs to be refined, everything needs to be tinkered with a little bit here and there. And that is what sets you up for the greatest success in life, because when you figure out what the best version of you is, that's only half the game, because refinement is the other half, and that's a lifelong thing. And as a man, I believe you should, even women should blame themselves and take self accountability, because it's for your benefit. Self accountability is for your benefit. When I take self accountability, I realize I can trust myself more, I can rely on myself more, I can respect myself more for taking self accountability. And there's nothing toxically masculine out there other than abusing people, especially abusing women. And I don't want to go off on that tangent unless it's for Rumble. But despite all of this, if you can't be self accountable, if you can't trust yourself, if you can't respect yourself, it's hard to get by with other people. And the reason is because I want people that reflect my values. If I don't struggle to talk with girls, I don't want a person in my life or in my circle that can't talk to girls. You're you're a weakness. You're the weakling. You don't reflect me at all. I'll I don't want to be seen in the same room as you. That's just how I am. And that's because I have friends that reflect my personality, my creeds, my values, my beliefs perfectly. And I don't have to look for other people. I just don't. It's not in me to have to look for other people out there because I have what I've been looking for and I don't need to go around looking for more. I get by just fine with what I already have. And the reason I'm talking about this, especially in the masculine essence and social leprosy, is you don't want to be that contagious towards other people to the point that they avoid you just because you're socially awkward. A lot of people they blame me for being tough, but guess what? Like another part of why I mentioned the fact that I was raised by my father is because of this. He taught me to be a person that at times can be tough because he was tough on me and I wish he was only tougher. And I genuinely do. It took some learning, but I genuinely wish he was tougher on me because I thank him every day that he raised me the way he did. And I'm not trying to make an emotional spiel out of this or whatever, however you pronounce that. It's because being brutally honest is a gift. Saying the truth the way it is a very rare thing in this world. And that's what my father helped me do. I'm willing to pay the consequences. I'm willing to risk the consequences, even if it means that I get to say the truth regardless of what the consequences are. And what that taught me is that tough love is the best love there is in a tough world. It's the realest love you'll ever get in a tough world. Tough love. And that set me out to be one of the most dedicated versions of myself that I could be. And I don't like to compare myself to other people a lot. And I've heard a lot of guys talk about how their father was hard on them. Unless your father was deadbeat and he was abusive, there is literally no excuse for you to talk to your father just because you've had disagreements with him in the past. They love you, they really care about you, even if they don't want you there in their home sometimes. It's fine because they teach you so much more about life. They're the Being a father is one of the hardest jobs. Ask God. Please ask God how hard it is to be a father. Don't ask your father, ask God. How hard is it to be a father? You have to love tough a little bit so that you can raise sons that understand how to get by, that understand the brutal reality that nobody cares. The girl that you like, if you mess up, she doesn't care. And like I was saying, when I left girls, the biggest thing I did was take self accountability. Not where did she go wrong, where did I go wrong? When I will analyze when she stopped talking to me the way she did and when she started turning a cold shoulder towards me and how that affected me. What did I do that triggered that? What did I do that made sure that she started responding late? Where she wouldn't pick up my calls, where she would start ignoring me? Because that's a me problem. I messed up. Everything, the law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So something that I did instigated her reaction. It reflected something that I had already been doing. So it's better that you start taking self accountability. A lot of masculine people, masculine essence, lessons and essence can be taught simply through self accountability. And the reason I say that is because men already know how to be hard on themselves. It just comes to us naturally. But you'd rather generate that energy into positive momentum, in a positive trajectory. Why wouldn't you? Will sit there and you will cry and you will complain about the girl, but you could have used that energy to figure out where you went wrong and start fixing that. It's the same emotional energy anyway. What did I just tell you in the last video? Everything is an investment, emotionally, mentally, physically, socially, financially, spiritually. Whether it be time, whether it be money, whether it be anything that you do emotionally, if it's energy, you can invest it into something. Why not invest it into something that's positive? Like I said, I was thinking about a dog that I had a very close relationship with. He was kind of like my son, Hachi, and he was murdered. He didn't die of natural causes. The leopard didn't kill him. A human being poisoned him. 2 days before my birthday. That's why I don't celebrate. And I sat there looking at a photo of us, and I miss him. Every day I miss him. I sat there and I thought to myself, I was looking at both a picture of Hachi and Duke, and I was thinking about how I'm almost done writing my poetry books, and they're almost done edited. They're, the book covers are almost finished. And I thought about how I persevered past that and how it took a toll on me emotionally. And I came up with an original quote. Every negative thing in your life can be a catalyst for forward trajectory and momentum in a positive direction. And it's very true, because when you take self accountability and you decide to put light in your own darkness, that is one of the most powerful things you can ever do for yourself. Learning how to be positive with negative things. I spoke about unfair advantages. I told you about how unfair advantages works. My parents are split up. I grew up without much, and I used that unfairness that people complain about, and I twisted it and turned it into an advantage, because only I can. I know the ins and outs of my situation, my life, everything that I go through, my relationships. I know the ins and outs of how my mind works, how my heart works, how my social interactions work, how I am geared and designed as a person. Why wouldn't I use that as my advantage? Why wouldn't I use that to my greatest advantage as a catalyst for forward momentum in a positive trajectory, and use that as an advantage? Everything that I deem as everything that everybody else would deem as unfair that's happened to me, I deem as an unfair advantage. I use that as a step up. Okay, fine. If this was your average, this is my average, because I'm using my unfairness as obnoxious. If this is my average and I have, sorry, if this is their average and I falsify towards myself that I have an unfairness to some sort of situation or some relationship, why not make this my average instead of this? This is my personal average, and because I turn it into an advantage, I aim higher and higher. I exceed the average. I know me. I am confident in myself that way. That's why I came here. No connections. I don't know anybody in Montana. I don't know anybody about anything. I don't know much about Montana. I came here because I was like, you know what? How much do I trust myself? How confident am I in myself in different situations that even I won't be able to estimate? I had to do two morning transports the other day, and one of them was at 2:40 in the morning. I had to trust myself to wake up at 1:15, even though I probably slept at 12. I had to trust myself to wake up at 1:15 in the morning, get my push-ups done, get my squats done, get my boxing routine done, and by 2:20 get in the car, pick up the guests, and be gone by 2:40, and then come back, do more work, and then do another transpo at 9:40, and then come back by 1, not falling asleep in the car, not wasting time, come back, be a good person, buy baked goods for the front office because they showed up at 5:30 in the office, and then spend the rest of the day doing more productive stuff. I ended up sparring, and then I probably slept at 1 or 2 and Monday night. So that was Sunday and Monday. I stayed up for 24 hours, and I was like, well, if that's the case, I'm going to make it the most productive I can. Today's my day off. I'm going to make it the most productive I can by doing this work. That's how I'm operating on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Unfair advantage. It may be unfair that I didn't sleep. I don't care. I'm going to turn it into my advantage. I have more time. That is a real life example from what happened 2 days ago with me. It was, you can say it's unfair that I didn't get to sleep. I think about it in one way. I need to be at the top of my game on my worst day. When I haven't slept, when I feel tired, when I feel like I don't have any energy, I need to be the best I can be. Because nobody else is going to be the best I can be for me. That is what masculinity is about, being the best. Because nobody knows, you're not going to tell anybody exactly what you're going through anyway. Nobody knows anyway, nobody cares anyway, so you may as well make the most of it for you because you care. I don't like hearing guys say that they have stress and anxiety just because of this reason. Just because of this reason. Those are the two biggest indicators that you do care. Simple. End of the statement. Those are the two biggest reasons that you do care. They're not excuses, they're the biggest reasons that you do care. Trust me on that. You can't say, I have an alcohol problem, I have this problem, I have that problem, I have depression. You're a man. Just, I believe in that masculinity. You're a man. Shrug it off. Rub some dirt on it. I don't care. Because the moment you start making excuses, you doubt your own capabilities. That's the truth. That's the harsh truth I'm going to give you. The moment that you start to make excuses, you doubt your own capability. And half of you haven't even seen the capacity with which you can operate, the capability with which you can operate through. Your real capacity, your real capability exceeds what you have ever thought of it to be. But you never gave yourself that shot. You never gave yourself that chance to even try. Instead, you relied on excuses. If I ever come up with an excuse for something, I try to give it 5 minutes and figure out how it can be my biggest reason to do it. If it's an excuse to not do something, I make it the biggest reason to do something or to do something else. Like I said, analyzing social interactions. Everybody went cattle branding. They thought it was an everybody thing. I didn't think it was an everybody thing because I'm not everybody. That was my reason to shoot content and to speak to you guys. And I made the most of that day. So the excuse became a reason, and I twisted it to make it a reason to do something far more fruitful, far more better. Think about it. Genuinely think about it. When was the last time you actually pushed yourself past your limits? There's a reason limits exist, There is. And there's also a reason why we exceed limits. A big reason why. And you need to start leaning on yourself that way to understand how you can exceed limits within which you operate and then begin to operate outside of those limits. Trust yourself. If I'm doing it, I'm leading by example. I'm here to show you and to prove to you that point. I'm in cowboy land. I made a friend that's a cowboy, and we call each other the duo of the cowboy and the Indian. Wrong Indian, but that's the entire idea, the pun of it all. Now think about it. I'm here as a display, as a real life display that I trust myself, that I'm confident in myself, and that I respect myself enough to get this done. To whether it be social interactions, whether it be networking with the millionaires that come and that I'm expected to converse with and meet with and network with and tell them how I want to buy businesses, I'm learning to trust myself more and more outside of the limit that I already did trust myself. I'm learning to respect myself outside of the limit that I already did respect myself. I'm learning to be more confident in myself past the limit I already did have confidence in myself. I'm learning how to speak better, to communicate better past the limits and the capacity and the capability that I thought I had. And I'm showing you that. I'm doing it. Why aren't you? You have, at this point, you don't have an excuse. This is probably one of the whitest states in America. Probably. I'm not sure on that demographic. You can correct me if you want in the comments. Having an Indian work on a ranch, like a Himalayan Indian in cowboy land, in the mountains of Montana, this is kind of like all 4,000, 5,000, I think, Emigrant Peak, which is right there, is 10,000. These are all baby numbers for us. But I'm in cowboy land as a Himalayan Indian. Not the plains, not where all the crowds are, from the mountains, where everything's sort of scattered. Most people would say, why are you there? Do you think you'll fit with the white people there? Do you think you stand a chance in cowboy land? Do you think you stand a chance in the cowboy and ranch lifestyle? I've already been here a month. I must be doing something right. I found a hat that looks really good on me, cowboy hat that looks good on me. Maybe one of these I'll shoot a video. One of these days I'll probably shoot a video wearing that, and you guys might like it because it's cowboy approved. The Himalayan Indian is wearing a cowboy hat that is cowboy approved. So, and you know what? I'll even be this honest with you. This honest, not dishonest, but this honest with you. I'm getting better at talking to girls that I think are cute that I probably have nothing to do with. And I'm deliberately doing that. And I'm not talking about the staff, I'm talking about the girls that come here as guests. I'm not intimidated because I trust myself. I respect myself enough not to fumble and treat them like a human being. It's the fact that when you hesitate and you start stuttering, it's because you don't respect that person. It's not because you respect them too much. It's because you can't even respect yourself and you can't respect them either. It just oozes out of you and it comes out in social awkwardness. And the reason I believe in tough love, furthermore, is because I believe it is the most personal thing that I owe everybody, is to be that brutally honest person. If I love you, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm going to be tough on you because I want the best for you. And there's a chapter in the Bible, I think it's Ezekiel chapter 33, where God is speaking through Ezekiel and he says, if you see someone doing something wrong and you don't correct them, their sin is on your hands or their blood is on your hands. But if you see them do something wrong and you correct them, then their sin is on their hands if they carry through with it. And there's another verse in the Bible that I love to live by, Proverbs 18, chapter 24. 24. A man of many friends may come to ruin, but there is one that stays closer than a brother. I like to be that person. A lot of people here are shocked that I'm willing to buy people phones that have wrecked them because I care. I care about people. And I'm not saying that to stroke my ego. I'm saying that because that's what someone that's closer than a brother would do. And that's the culture I come from. That's the life that I've received from strangers. I've received shoes, I've received clothes, I've received providence in ways that only God could understand I needed things. One of my bestest friends in America has helped me understand my own father heart that I do have deep inside of me. And it's just because he started treating me like I'm his kid. And he was the one person that said God wanted me to give you this cycle that's worth $1,000. Why wouldn't I want to buy someone else a phone? I've received treatment like that. That was the love of the Father. That was the love of Father God being transpired through someone else. Why wouldn't I want to do that too? Why wouldn't I want to be that for someone else? Because my dad raised me for that purpose, because he was raised that way when he was being trained as a pastor, as someone to be a minister, to, to lean on God's providence. And sometimes it requires you to confront and deal with the harshest things that keep you from God, that keep you from trusting God, that keep you from being able to communicate with God and to hear from God and to even be able to trust in His provision. That is how rough and tough that it gets. And that is why tough love helps, because it helps you confront the things that are keeping you from yourself, that are keeping you from God, and the love that He has for you, the providence that He has for you. Do you understand now why tough love matters? I hope you do, because this entire video is dedicated towards that, especially for the men. Especially if you're a woman and you're watching this, I congratulate you, and I hope you learn something out of this, or the Holy Spirit speaks to you. But beyond that, if you're not able to be your harshest critic while also being your own greatest motivator, God can't help you. I'm sorry about that, but God can't help you. I spoke about this. The cross is not just about Jesus, it's also about the two people that stood right next to Jesus at the entrance of death. And one guy mocked Jesus and said, I don't believe you're the Son of God. The other one said, if you are, will we be in heaven together? He said, surely. That's the decision you make every day. That's self-accountability. That's tough love right there. And it means that you do provide for your son, but you also provide him with a lesson sometimes. You hold back on the providing, which God has done plenty of times for me, so I can learn the lesson first, so I can be truly grateful for what He gave me. That's how I operate. And I'm not talking about competitiveness. I'm not talking about petty things. Not that competitiveness is petty, but other petty things that are being all sympathetic and empathetic, and it's all pathetic. Because if you can't stand up for yourself, I don't want your sympathy, I don't want your empathy, and nobody else does either. The only reason empathy and sympathy can have any impact on anyone else is if you respect yourself, if you trust yourself, and if you are good to yourself. Otherwise, it's just smoke and mirrors. You're filling something from an empty tank. Sorry to break it to you. And you will get more of me speaking like this in the future, because I want to be able to talk more towards the men. I want to be able to talk more to the men specifically, just because I want better guys in the world. That is just what God has put in my heart. I was talking to someone yesterday about this. They said, "Why do you speak on the internet?" And I said, God told me to do this in 2023. I delayed it and I started doing this in October 2024. I delayed it by a year. I had to take self accountability. Now I'm in full momentum and I don't even want to miss a day. I don't want to miss a week. That's how I am. And I've become so emotionally involved that God put it in my heart, the drive, the ambition, and the passion to just be able to speak to you guys. And I'm getting better at it noticeably since October, noticeably since January, because I care. And He's put that in my heart to be able to speak to you guys like this. Otherwise, I didn't like the way my face looked on camera. I didn't like the way I sounded on camera. True story. You wouldn't be able to believe it at this point in time now that I'm making shorts. But that is the way it was for me. And I persevered through all of that. And now I don't feel it much more anymore. And he said, I wish I had a call as big as yours. I wish I could do that. And I said, buddy, you only need to start. I told him the same thing I just told you. I didn't like the way I looked on camera. I didn't like the way I sounded on camera. But I had to deal with it. And that was part of me taking self accountability and learning to trust myself, learning to be more respectful towards myself, learning to be more confident with myself. And it's paid off. I would say it has. I would say that it continues to pay itself off and that it continues in this trajectory to continuously pay itself off. Every time I'm making a video, every time I'm analyzing the way I speak to you guys, I just hope it continues to do more. That's the way I am. And I wish the same for you. I genuinely do. If you're a man and you've been watching this, if you're a boy and you've been watching this, I want you guys as early or as late as you guys are starting. It's not a bad time. You've heard it, just start implementing it. You're probably going through something right now, I don't know. But I would just suggest that you please look at what you're going through, no matter how good or bad it is, and focus on how you can make it better. Because that's something that God instills inside each and every one of you. He did that for me. You don't have an excuse after this. I just gave the game away. I'm giving it to you for free. All you have to do is listen and implement. You have no excuse after this. You do not. So please don't mess this up. I'll talk to you guys next week.